Today, Harris is grilled on immigration on Fox News. What are allies saying about Ukraine's victory plan?
One Direction singer Liam Payne dies after falling from a hotel balcony. And how Israel's bulky pages duped Hezbollah.
It's Thursday, October 17th. This is Reuters World News, bringing you everything you need to know from the front lines in 10 minutes, every weekday. I'm Sharon Reich-Garson in New Jersey.
And I'm Tara Oakes in Liverpool. One Direction fans singing outside the hotel in Argentina where star Liam Payne was found dead. Police say the 31-year-old singer fell from his third-floor room balcony at a hotel in Buenos Aires. They were in attendance after being notified of an aggressive man who could be under the effects of drugs and alcohol. Fans and celebrities have taken to social media to express their shock at the news.
Kamala Harris is wading deeper into conservative territory in her appeal for undecided voters. First, a campaign stop in a battleground Pennsylvania county alongside Republican supporters, followed by a combative interview on Fox News' special report with Bret Baier.
You had the White House and the House and the Senate,
and they didn't bring up that bill. I'm in the middle of responding to the point you're raising, and I'd like to finish.
Yes, ma'am.
Harris addresses illegal immigration, transgender care, and differentiates herself from President Biden more than she has in the past.
My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency.
Her appearance on Fox News follows an interview with radio host Charlemagne the God on his morning show, The Breakfast Club. And as Reuters has exclusively reported, her campaign is in talks with the Joe Rogan Experience about a possible appearance on the podcast. Jeff Mason broke that story and is here to tell us more.
It's not a done deal, but they have talked to them, and it is a sign that Vice President Harris and her team think that she can make inroads with men by doing sit-down interviews with someone like Joe Rogan. It's not necessarily friendly territory, but it is a really big audience, and it follows her doing interviews with Fox and having events with Republicans that are underscoring her message to say to conservatives, to men of all political persuasions and races, look, if you are fed up with Donald Trump or you're leaning against voting for him, there's a place for you here in my campaign.
And over on markets, traders are reviving their bets for a Trump victory. Carmel Crimmins has more.
Trump's policies on trade, tax and immigration are seen as inflationary, and that's positive for the dollar. So in the last 2 or 3 days, the concept of a Trump victory has been boosting the greenback. Bitcoin has also rallied. Trump and the Republicans are seen as more pro-crypto than Harris and the Democrats. And sticking with the US, on this week's episode of my podcast, Reuters Econ World, we're looking at how climate change is making it more difficult for American homeowners to get insurance. And we're looking into what that could mean for property values and the wider economy. You can catch it on Reuters.com, the Reuters app, or wherever you get your podcasts.
The Indian government made a horrific mistake.
Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau making his strongest comments yet in a year-long spat with India. His remarks come 2 days after Ottawa kicked out 6 Indian diplomats, linking them to the murder of a Sikh separatist leader in Canada.
Italy's parliament has made it illegal for couples to go abroad to have a baby via surrogacy. Activists say the law, a pet project of Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni's party, is meant to target same-sex partners. Volodymyr Zelenskiy has unveiled his victory plan for Ukraine. In it, he lays out 5 points needed for Kyiv to push back Russia's steady march further into eastern Ukraine. The plan includes some hefty requests from allies in Europe and the US, including NATO membership and additional military support. In return, Kyiv promises Ukrainian military support to NATO and access to Ukraine's natural mineral resources after the war is over. Foreign policy editor Don Durfee is in Washington.
None of the U.S. allies, including the U.S., have come out publicly to support the plan. And part of the problem here, I think, is the request to join NATO. NATO has said that it does plan to allow Ukraine to be a member at some point. It has a path to membership, but it has stopped short of actually issuing an invitation. And that reflects divisions among the NATO membership.
Now, does Zelenskyy's plan cede any land to Russia?
Ukraine has been very explicit in saying that they have no intention of doing so. Now, most analysts say that ultimately the way this conflict ends is with, if not Ukraine ceding some land, maybe agreeing to a line of fire where they agree to freeze things along the current battle lines. But so far, Ukraine has not said that they would do anything of the sort.
How likely is Zelenskiy to get what he's asking for?
Big question mark, of course, is the U.S. election. Donald Trump has expressed, deep skepticism over U.S. military support for Ukraine. I think Ukraine is worried that if he comes back into office, that he would essentially stop direct U.S. military aid to Ukraine.
A deceptive battery, a plastic explosive, and an elaborate cover story. Together, those lay the groundwork for a massive infiltration into Hezbollah operations in Lebanon. On September 17th, thousands of pages used by the group simultaneously exploded in the Beirut suburbs, killing dozens and wounding thousands. Two Western security sources say Israeli intelligence agency Mossad was behind it. And Reuters has uncovered never-before-reported details. So how was this audacious attack, years in the making, pulled off? David Gauthier-Villard is here to tell us.
Reuters had access to photos showing one of the pager batteries being torn down. And what those photos have allowed us to understand is how the pager bombs were designed to deceive Hezbollah. It appears that Israeli intelligence knew that Hezbollah would conduct some tests upon receiving the devices. And so one of the main characteristics that we've discovered is that the battery bomb was fitted with a very unusual detonator that contained no metallic element. They went to the airport, took them through security controls through the X-ray machine, and because it didn't trigger any alarm, they were reassured. The other revelation is that the Israeli intelligence knew that their battery and the pager around it did not exist on the market. We found that the Israeli agent, months before the pagers were delivered to Lebanon, to Hezbollah, began creating a backstory for both the battery and the pager. And so in September last year, some pages describing the battery began to appear on a website. It was also discussed on 2 online forums devoted to batteries. So we're almost a year before any of the devices are delivered to Hezbollah. There's a person online who says, "Oh, I know this product. It has great performance." Former Israeli spies told us they agreed with us with this assessment that this was a backstory created specifically to dupe Hezbollah.
But there was a red flag, right? The pager's battery life.
It turns out that the battery weighed 35 grams, but it only yielded 2.22 watt hours, which is quite low for that weight. Our sources within Hezbollah say that they actually did have some concern with the performance of the battery, but it was not enough didn't raise much suspicion, so they continued to use the pagers, so much so that hours before the explosion, they were still distributing some pagers to Hezbollah members.
So aside from the engineering and marketing of the weaponized pagers, how then did they wind up in Hezbollah members' hands?
Sources in Lebanon say that as part of Hezbollah's investigation, Hezbollah has found that the Israeli agents used a very aggressive sales tactics to make sure that Hezbollah would procure that specific R924 pager model that they had designed. And what we've learned is that the salesperson who conveyed the offer to Hezbollah made a very inexpensive proposition that, according to Hezbollah itself, was irresistible.
Mossad and the Office of Israel's Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, which has authority over the intelligence agency, did not respond to a request for comment. Hezbollah also declined to comment.
For today's recommended read, more of a visual story actually, citizens of Cape Town, South Africa are struggling to combat a troop of baboons that have inundated neighborhoods. To see some amazing images of these baboons and read more, follow the link to the story in the podcast description.
And for more on any of the stories from today, check out Reuters.com or the Reuters app. To never miss an episode, subscribe on your favourite podcast player. We'll be back tomorrow with our daily headline show.